This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
I think what you see with these words, unfortunately, is an attempt to erase some Americans from the conversation.
Language is everything. Language is everything. It's always about communication, because it is the research that we do and the information that we gather has to be displayed and portrayed to the patients.
The Centers for Disease Control is reportedly banning words like fetus and transgender. Why? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohn, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on the new language restrictions in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. If you are visiting the Suncoast this week to get away from the freezing weather up north, so sorry. It's frigid, frosty, and downright cold, and we're not done yet. Let's head over to ABC 7's Chief Meteorologist, Bob Harrigan. First alert forecast, Bob.
It's one of those days where it's actually warmer in Denver than it is here in Sarasota and Bradenton. The unusual cold snap has hit us and looks like it will stick around tonight and tomorrow morning. And then a gradual warming trend as we head into the weekend. More of the weekend weather in just a moment. 44 degrees now at the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport. The wind chill down to 40 already, and the dew point at 34. Now, the winds aren't going to be as strong tonight, but we're still going to see wind chills in the upper 20s to low 30s for wake-up time tomorrow. So bundle the kids up as you head them off to school. North winds at 7 now, and the pressure continues to rise, and that high pressure getting closer to us. The pressure gradient is relaxing somewhat, so the winds won't be as strong tomorrow. Now, current temperature 39 in Jacksonville, it's 45 in Orlando, and 43 in Tallahassee. Now, you factor in the wind, it's 37. That's what it feels like in Pensacola. A couple of degrees warmer, but still chilly in Jacksonville, and 40 in Orlando. The freeze warning is on once again 2 nights in a row now for a lot of the Suncoast, although the west of the interstate, places like Palmetto, Bradenton, Longboat Key, Anna Maria Island, Venice, not in that freeze warning. So we're not going to see freezing temperatures in Sarasota to start things off tomorrow. We will, though, in Lakewood Ranch and places to the east and say Wauchula and Arcadia. That's all in the freeze warning. Northport, you're included in that freeze warning as well. So if you want to take care of your plants and make sure that they don't suffer any stress or even die as a result of the cold, you can bring them in or cover them up. That's the best advice. High pressure remains in control now, and that north to northeast wind will continue. But as this gets closer to us, the wind and pressure gradient isn't as strong, so we don't expect to see as windy weather, as I mentioned, tomorrow morning. Now, as far as temperatures go for forecast, we're looking for lows tonight to drop down basically into the upper 30s for us to mid 30s, but then by 4 o'clock or 9 o'clock, I should say, she'd be up to about 44 degrees here in Sarasota and in Bradenton as well, right around 45 degrees. That'll be at 9 o'clock, but most areas will start off with temperatures right around 38 degrees tomorrow. Now, that wind forecast I mentioned should be rather light tomorrow. Throughout the day, we'll have it out of the east, northeast, and with that little easterly component, temperatures will start to moderate a bit. We'll see temperatures tomorrow highs still below average, but warmer than it was today. Our high today was 53. Pretty much what our average low temperature is for this time of year. Much more on the weekend weather forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Alan?
Thanks, Bob. From cold weather to cold cases on the Suncoast, a new website is highlighting 400 unsolved murder cases, including 89 in Manatee County. It's a statewide effort to seek justice for local families. The Manatee County Sheriff's Office is one of the 10 law enforcement agencies across the state listing unsolved murder cases on this website, run by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Anyone can access it, including potential witnesses who may have information that could help law enforcement solve a case. It is giving people like Jill Mullins hope. Her husband was found dead, tied to an anchor in the Manatee River with a gunshot wound to the head.
Well, I hope it can help Pat's situation, our families. I think it's a great idea. I don't know who to thank for it, but if it can bring any case to resolution, then it's absolutely worth it.
You can find a link to the cold case website on our website at www.suncoast.com. Calls tonight in Bradenton for the removal of the Cedar Hammock Fire District Chief. Nearly a dozen former firefighters and families of current firefighters are protesting Chief Jeffrey Hoyle, who they claim is mistreating employees.
He was unfairly disciplined multiple times by the department and let go under very false pretenses. So that's why we're out here today, because the firefighters don't have any recourse because their chief is the beginning and the end of all disciplinary matters.
There is a Board of Commissioners meeting tonight for the district where previous Chief Randy Stoltz is expected to also express his dissent regarding his successor. Governor Rick Scott lending support to efforts aimed at making texting while driving a primary offense. A House bill is working its way through the legislature. The proposal would allow law enforcement officers to stop vehicles when they see drivers texting behind the wheel. Right now, motorists can only be charged with texting and driving if they are stopped for other offenses.
I clearly think that, we ought to look at doing something like that. You look at too many, you see too many accidents or people are distracted, and so they should, no one should be texting and driving.
The House bill would allow motorists to text when they're not moving and would require law enforcement officers to inform drivers that they have a right to decline a search for wireless devices. Governor Rick Scott will not be setting dates for special elections for 2 open seats in the legislature, leaving the seats of Senator Jack Latvala and the late Representative Don Handfeld open until November. Latvala resigned this month following an investigation into allegations of sexual harassment, and Handfeld died of cancer last month. The juice is loose, but not coming to the Sunshine State. According to O.J. Simpson's lawyer, the Football Hall of Famer isn't planning to move from Las Vegas to Florida. Before he was released from prison in October, Simpson had originally told state parole officials he was planning on moving to Florida. Since his release, Simpson, who was convicted of armed robbery, has been playing lots of golf and has yet to file paperwork for a move to a different state. Democratic lawmakers are calling for passage of legislation increasing penalties for people who threaten and intimidate women who use reproductive health clinics or providers who work at the clinics. Supporters say many women currently have to worry about their personal safety when going to clinics. The bills include penalties for attempts to intimidate or injure clinic clients or workers, or damage to destroy facilities.
As we have seen nationally, abortion providers, patients, and facilities are the targets of violence and harassment, ranging from vandalism to deadly attacks.
And still to come, why is the Trump administration pushing for words like transgender or fetus to be banned?
I am the resident district manager on the FAU campus for Chartwell. Whenever I see Haley, I do not see a person with a disability. I see a person with extraordinary abilities. Haley is always smiling. She's always on time. She gives fantastic customer service and is always focused on any job that she's given.
Hi, this is Dan Marino. When your business recruits people with disabilities, everybody wins. To find out how, go to disabilitieswork.employflorida.com.
Hi, I'm Janelle Hale, founder and CEO of the National Breast Cancer Foundation. No one should face breast cancer alone. When I was diagnosed 36 years ago, there was no internet, and I had to make a decision with little information. Early detection saved my life. It could save yours too. To learn what every woman needs to know about breast cancer, visit nbcf.org/hope.
WWSB ABC7 is an equal opportunity employer, and we're looking for qualified people to join our dynamic team. For a list of current openings and to apply online, visit www.mysuncoast.com/contact/employment. If you're a motivated team player and you want a rewarding career in a fun, fast-paced working environment, WWSB ABC7 could be the perfect fit for you. Check out our list of openings now. ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you. Watch ABC7 wherever you are, on our live stream, on mysuncoast.com, on the ABC7 My Suncoast app, powered by the Eye Associates, providing sight for life, featuring traffic maps and live radar, dining with recipes, and My Suncoast Restaurant Guide. Visit mysuncoast.com. Click on the Apps tab to download the ABC7 My Suncoast app for Apple and Android.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah, Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
ABC7, your official Florida lottery station for the Suncoast.
Banning words. You may have heard Governor Rick Scott ban state employees from using the phrase climate change. Now, the Trump administration is giving staff at the Centers for Disease Control a list of banned words, many of which are raising alarm in both the medical and civil rights communities. ABC7's Adam Cellini spoke with both groups and joins us with more. Adam.
Yeah, Alan, that list has 7 words on it, and some of the ones that are raising concern include fetus, diversity, and even transgender.
The library is continuing to grow, which is exciting.
Also, youth is Sarasota's sanctuary for kids and young adults in identity crisis. Nathan Broomer is executive director of the LGBTQ nonprofit, helping these kids navigate a world that doesn't always understand them. But even he doesn't understand why a national agency would ban a word like transgender.
It raises some questions. And I think what you see with these words, unfortunately, is an attempt to erase some Americans from the conversation.
That word is one of 7 staff at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta were reportedly told to avoid while preparing an upcoming budget. A policy analyst told the Washington Post about that list, which includes other words like diversity, fetus, and science-based.
There are very specific programs and outreach that the CDC does to the transgender community. So I don't know how they can do their job as a public health agency without meeting those needs.
Parag Shukla has similar questions. As Associate Director of Clinical Research at Can Community Health, Shukla says limiting language should always be a concern.
Language is everything. Language is everything. It's always about communication, because it is the research that we do and the information that we gather has to be displayed and portrayed to the patients.
CAN stands for Community AIDS Network and is dedicated to the treatment and care of people living with HIV/AIDS. Medical Director Tanya Schriebman, who runs clinical trials with AIDS patients, says those listed words are quite common in these halls, especially science and evidence-based.
Yes, well, I can't really imagine not using them in clinical research. It's kind of standard of care with medicine, and it's standard of care and research to use that type of terminology.
It's much more personal for Michael Lamb, the nonprofit's peer navigator who helps others living with HIV, some who are transgender.
So you're removing a whole person, so it's like, are we kind of pushing them out of the way of care and their whole existence?
The Department of Health and Human Services' response to the initial Washington Post report is that it was, quote, a complete mischaracterization. An HHS spokesperson told ABC News the HHS will continue to use the best scientific evidence available to improve the health of all Americans. Also, CNN acquired a memo the agency's director, Brenda Fitzgerald, sent to her staff, using 2 of those banned terms to describe their mission. However, this does come after rollbacks on transgender rights from the Department of Education and the Department of Justice, leading Broomer to believe this report is part of a larger trend happening in Washington.
This kind of messaging repeated from our administration absolutely has an impact.
Now, Alan, according to several reports, staff at the CDC were given alternative phrases for some of those words, including science and evidence-based, but not all of those words.
Okay, Adam, thanks a lot. No words are banned here, so meet me at the trapezoid.
The classic film Singing in the Rain is coming to the Players Center in a live stage show opening January 17th. All the dances and all the songs you've come to know and love, all a part of our wild Broadway series. Get your tickets now for this limited run by calling the Players at 365-2494 or visit us online at theplayers.org. You too can be singing in the rain.
Many websites selling medication may look professional and legitimate, but the vast majority of sites selling prescription drugs are doing so illegally. Criminals use websites to sell counterfeit medications that may contain life-threatening toxins. Dot Pharmacy is a website verification program that helps you identify safe and trustworthy online pharmacies. Purchasing medicine online can be safe and easy. Just look for pharmacy to the right of the dot in website addresses.
Don't allow your weight to threaten your health or control your future. Excess weight or obesity can cause emotional and physical health risks. But you can take control. The Your Weight Matters campaign offers free resources and tips to help you measure and understand your weight. Take the Your Weight Matters Challenge. The free toolkit prepares you to speak with a healthcare provider about your weight. Your weight does matter. Take the challenge and take control today.
All hands on deck. What's up? I want to point out 3 tips for using the home computer more safely. Point away.
First, stop. Make sure your software is up to date and that you've password protected your computer's login and Wi-Fi connection.
Next, think before visiting a site, opening attachments, or clicking on links.
Then connect, knowing you're helping make the web safer for you
and for everyone. Make Stop, Think, Connect part of your daily online routine.
Every week on Animal Outtakes, it's a new animal adventure. It's a job that most would not want, extracting venom from some of the most deadly snakes in the world. We'll learn how and why these folks are doing it. And if this guy was invited to a nice party, he's already wearing a tux. We're getting to know all about this dapper fella. Join us this week on ABC7.
Welcome back. Banning words doesn't sound like a very American way of life thing to do, does it? We should be getting used to it, though. Here in Florida, the unwritten policy of Governor Rick Scott to state employees don't use the phrase climate change. Now, at the Centers for Disease Control, you know, that science-y health organization run by the federal government, employees are reportedly being told don't use terms like science-based, diversity, transgender. So let's get this straight. The president can say S-hole in the Oval Office, but you'd be in real trouble if you use science-based there. Joining us for more is Susan Nylon of the Nylon Report and Dr. Prerak Shukla of the Can Community Health. And thank you both for joining us.
Sure.
And Susan, put this into context as someone who is interested in civil liberties about these stories and what you're hearing.
You know, putting it into context, it's kind of hard to actually put some logic to it because, you know, we're all adults. These words are well-founded, well-grounded in science-based evidence. They're a part of our culture. When you start to tell people what words they can't use, you are not only censoring it, but you're not being fully honest with what they're talking about, and you're manipulating the conversation.
Since this story first came out, the Centers for Disease Control has pushed back and basically said, well, we don't technically mean that these words are banned, but that basically it is a suggestion that it's not so much a ban, but recommendations to avoid some language to ease the path towards budget approval by the Republicans. Doctor, if you're in a position that you are trying to seek federal funding for certain projects and you're told, hey, listen, heads up, you're dealing with a conservative Congress, maybe you should avoid using these kinds of terms. Isn't that basically a way to get what you need?
Yes, it's pretty much putting a bias in our studies, and that's something that we don't try to do. We try to find the facts, report them as we do find them. Banning these words would have a great limitation on that. You're singling out groups that don't need to be singled out.
Like which groups?
Like the transgender group. They need to have it spoken for. They need to know that there's our certain health issues with them that if we don't study, if we don't know what it's about, then we cannot address it.
But it's not just transgender or issues in terms of HIV. We're talking about science-based, evidence-based, and suggestions to phrase that in different ways, Susan.
Yeah, and the question is, what do you replace it with? You know, and how honest is that really being? Is the government actually condoning the idea that we're going to manipulate our words in order to be able to get funding? I think that's just a poor excuse, and if Congress can't be adults about it, then, you know, we have a serious problem.
I'll quote a former CDC official who says they're not saying not to use it in your request for money because it will hurt you. It's not about censoring what the CDC can say to the American public. It's about budgetary strategy to get funded.
Yeah, but some of the words they're talking about are a fetus, you know, or, you know, just, I mean, you mentioned climate change. What do you say? I really think it goes beyond they're just being sensitive to what Congress doesn't want to hear. I think they're truly manipulating the conversation. I think they're trying to change the words that we're accustomed to using. So we can change the dialogue.
Doctor, don't physicians and public health officials sometimes have to play political games when seeking budget, money from whether it's a local government, state government, or the federal government?
It's hard to say, but there's no room for politics when it comes to science and to treating everyone. When you have a large government organization like the CDC, you want them to report what it is, as it is. Now, why all of a sudden for these change of these words that they have been using for decades now? That's what's the real question. Why change it now? What is your honest goal to try to replace it with? Words like science-based, evidence-based. Now, if you were to take a medication that you had no science behind or evidence behind, would you feel okay taking it?
Right. All right, we are just getting warmed up. We'll have much more on the 7 dirty words at the CDC right after we check the First Alert weather. Stay with us.
To be able to just get my son here and not think about how we will pay for it, it just takes so much weight off of my family. St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
Everybody can make something, because I think everyone has a spark of creativity, and the reason that I have to keep making is because I don't think my life would be as fulfilling without it. If you make things yourself, that means you're not cowering in fear. You're out there taking chances. That, I think, is my way of saying I love you to the world. All right, now I want to hear why you make.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
Florida Studio Theater presents the 8-time Tony Award winner Once, held over by popular demand. Captivating and breathtaking, Once is an unforgettable story about going for your dreams and the power of music to connect us all. Critics are calling Once engaging and heartwarming, outstanding, and a flawless production. Audiences are calling it phenomenal and better than Broadway. Once must close January 19th. Tickets can be purchased by calling 941-366-9000 or by visiting floridastudiotheater.org.
Performing on stage takes mental and physical preparation. But one thing I never thought to prepare for was cervical cancer. 91% of cervical cancers are caused by the human papillomavirus, or HPV. The good news is there are vaccines that can protect you or your children from cancer. I survived my cancer, but you can stop cancer before it starts. Talk to your doctor and go to thinkaboutthelink.org to learn more.
My name is Haley. I have Fragile X syndrome. I work with Chartwells at Einstein's at FAU. I like being up front and interacting with students. The students are very nice and very hungry. Having a job is a big ticket for independence.
Hi, this is Dan Marino. When your business recruits people with disabilities, everybody wins. To find out how, go to disabilitieswork.employflorida.com.
Our conversation on restrictions on wording at the CDC continues right after we check the First Alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Well, truly a First Alert weather day today with bitterly cold wind chill factors to start things off. Get a look at this. This is from my cell phone. I took this and posted on social media this morning. This is from our ABC7 weather app, and you want to download that. We have the ability to actually do engaged videos, and it talks to you through meteorologist John Scalzi and myself. Kind of update that as well. Get a look at what the temperature was. 25, that's what the feels like temperature was. This is in northwest Bradenton. The actual temperature was at 33 degrees. And when that happens and freezing temperatures occur here along the Sun Coast and sprinkler systems are on automatic, well, you get this. This is an interesting shot here. This was from the Venice area, the Plantation Golf and Country Club there. I appreciate that photo being sent in, and just a unique experience for a lot of people this day. This is a beautiful sunset tonight by Norm Schimmel. Yeah, Norm, beauty, there it is. And this was also on some of the cars, the newer cars around town. When the temperature drops below 32, you get this warning: ice possible, drive with care. You don't see that very often here along the Sun Coast. And record lows, there were a few. I'll step back and show you those. Tampa, 29, tied the record of 1981. And St. Petersburg, they set a big mark there, 31 degrees this morning at Clearwater and St. Petersburg, Clearwater area. They're in Plant City, 22 degrees. That shattered the old mark of 24 set back in 1977. In Fort Myers even, close to freezing there. The old mark 26 set back in 2003. Freezing again tonight and tomorrow morning. Bundle the kids up heading out to school tomorrow because the wind chills will be in the upper 20s to start things off. And bring in or cover your sensitive plants east of I-75. West, you shouldn't have to worry about it. And then properly ventilate the space heaters. A lot of people will be using those, and limit your pets' outdoor exposure. Well, the watches and warnings, 32-degree temperatures expected in the Manatee and Sarasota counties east of I-75. If you're in Hardy and DeSoto and Highlands County, you'll get on the lower end of that scale at 28 degrees. And the duration that should be Friday morning, by the way, and that should be in effect basically the coldest day right around 6, 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Well, satellite and radar imagery showing some high clouds around. And a lot of times these high clouds can keep temperatures a little bit milder than forecast. So we'll watch those right now. They're kind of gathering a little bit more so here in the Gulf of Mexico, and the models may have not picked up on that, but that could keep temperatures a couple of degrees warmer than anticipated. Overnight low temperatures near the water and near the coast into the upper 30s there for the most part. But as I said, the feels like temperature will be in the upper 20s to low 30s to start things off. We're expecting and anticipating temperatures by 11 o'clock tonight with a few clouds around at 41 degrees. And then the low temperatures across the state below freezing in most areas. By 8 a.m. we'll start to warm up into the 40s, I suspect. And looks like highs tomorrow will be a little bit warmer than they were today. Today's highs were only into the low 50s, and that's pretty much our normal lows for the day. Overnight lows tonight for the area. In Northport, you'll be right around freezing at 31 degrees. And Inglewood, a little bit warmer. Mayaca City at freezing. And 37 degrees Venice to start things off tomorrow morning. Lakewood Ranch will be right there at freezing. And 37 in Bradenton. A bit warmer, but still cold out on the islands. Anna Maria, 41 for a low temperature to start things off on Friday. Currently, we have clear skies, 44 wind chill at 40. And winds are out of the north at 7 miles an hour. The high today was only 53 degrees, our average high at 71. We'll be back into the 70s, I think, as early as Saturday afternoon. We'll be very close to it, but Sunday definitely into the mid-70s. And the Gulf water temperature is starting to chill out now, down to 58 degrees. Well, here's the forecast. For boaters tomorrow, we'll start off a bit of a breeze northeast, but it will subside in the afternoon. Seas running right around 2 feet with a moderate chop. Tides upcoming 7:06, just at a low tide. High tide will be at 12:31. Well, the forecast. Here it is. A high tomorrow, 63 after a very cold start. 69 on Saturday, close to 70. We'll be there on Sunday, mid-70s, and it stays in the 70s all the way through the work week next week with a good chance for showers come late Sunday, or Monday, I should say, Monday night and Tuesday morning. Alan will be back with his guests right after this. Stick around.
If you're looking for the perfect trip that allows you to spend quality time with the family, then discover the great outdoors on an Alabama Black Belt adventure. Create unforgettable memories while hunting, canoeing, camping, and more. Or challenge yourself on Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail, now celebrating 25 years. And while you're here, enjoy a Deep South dining experience. Book your adventure in one of our members' lodges or stay at the Renaissance Montgomery Hotel and Spa. Start planning an Alabama Black Belt adventure today.
I'm Anne. I'm a scientist.
Recycling takes a team.
Why don't you let me and me help you out?
Everyone plays a part. Don't trash
I love taking stuff apart and building new things out of it.
what could be treasure.
Pal's my most advanced android. This is awesome. You haven't seen anything yet.
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Stay connected to your clients and new customers using ABC7 digital media services. Our team of professionals provide a wide array of digital services to help you get the most out of your website. We specialize in building and helping you maintain the most effective digital solutions for your business. It's vital that your online presence stands out, so our experts will equip you with the best resources available. Trust ABC7 digital media services to give you the right tools to grow your business.
Invest in Kids is a $7.5 million project to build a new Boys and Girls Club in South Manatee County. I'm Caleb Grimes, and I was a club kid. It's where I learned important life lessons, leadership, integrity, responsibility, and baseball. Thousands of kids attend the Boys and Girls Clubs, and after years of use, their club is slowly falling apart. Help us invest in kids. Make your donation today.
Thank you! This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back. Remember George Carlin and the 7 dirty words you can't say on television? Well, apparently the Trump administration reportedly has its own list of 7 dirty words at the Centers for Disease Control. Employees are not allowed to say science-based, fetus, transgender, vulnerable entitlement, diversity, and evidence-based. Joining us for more is Susan Nylon of the Nylon Report and Dr. Prerak Shukla of CAN Community Health. Welcome back, everyone. Doctor, let me read you something and get reaction to it. And that is that according to what the rules or the suggestions are, instead of using science-based or evidence-based, the suggested phrase the CDC bases its recommendations on science in consideration with community standards and wishes. Do you have a problem with that?
I do. I feel like they're diluting the word of the actual meaning, and they're just trying to please and appease everyone to make him feel better, but it's not the actual word that they should be using.
When you're doing research into whether it's HIV or anything else for that matter, and you're trying to look for scientific facts and ideas in terms of how to move forward, what does community standards and wishes have to relate to it?
It does not. It has no actual bearing in our scientific research. You're going after the objective. You're looking for the data. You're collecting it. You're not asking the community what it is. You're setting out a hypothesis. You're seeing where it goes, whether it's 2 years or 3 years, and you're going forward. There's no need for the community to know about it that way.
Susan, of course, we're seeing things like this in other federal agencies, including the EPA, where there are whole sections on climate change that are being taken off. The pages are being taken down. Employees there are also being told what not to say.
You know, I think it's really funny too, because reference was made in the last segment that the justification was that the government don't like these words. The only people that have changed are the administration. Congress has been there. Most of the people have been there for really long periods of time. There's no all of a sudden, oh, I don't like these words now. I think that's a pure manipulation. I also think it's discriminatory. When you can't use the word transgender, you're completely dismissing a part of the population who were desperately trying to gain rights. And if we start to ignore those words for whatever reason, we're actually undermining the validity of that individual. And, you know, there's some serious things. Plus, I also want to say, what part of the public actually reads these applications? You know, it's not like they're, and you could tell me different, but it's not like I sit down at the breakfast table and pull out some of your funding and say, what do they call it today? You know?
Right, but you're still, I mean, you are still a federal agency that is seeking funding from the Congress. Shouldn't there be a kind of a strategy in terms of how best to approach Congress in terms of getting what you want for the research that you want to do?
Yes, but these federal agencies are run by people appointed by the administration. And again, there hasn't been a requirement up until now. So Congress didn't have a problem before with those words. Why all of a sudden are they having a problem now? I really don't believe it's Congress. I believe it's the administration and the appointees that are now head of the agency.
Well, one might argue they won. And they can, therefore, they are there, and that they believe that this president and this party was elected to go forward with this agenda.
You know, one person won the election, and then he appointed everybody in the spot. They all didn't win. And the bottom line is they work for us, and we have every right to demand the truth. And if they're starting to manipulate the words, they're not telling the truth.
Doctor, I do have questions for you, but I want to ask what to Susan. I mean, can't you make the argument that it was the same deal with Obama, that Obama brought in a whole host of policies and directions to go into that were more reflective of his political philosophy?
Absolutely, and I have absolutely no problem with that argument, except the fact that I don't believe his administration came in and said, here's a list of vocabulary words that you're not allowed to use. I mean, that's a lot different. You're not just coloring it, the story different. This is not a news report that we're asking you not to use colorful words on. This is actual scientific documents that people's lives depend on. Why would you not tell the truth?
Doctor, are you concerned that what is being funded in terms of research and scientific exploration is going to be affected by some of these policies that are being put into effect?
Yes, if these policies do get placed, then yeah, funding might change. And that sucks for research and for the betterment of the population. And these words, they are what they are. They're scientific words. Now changing them after so many years, after decades. I agree when she said it's just a manipulation. And there's no reason for that. There's no room for that.
What is the impact on what you do and the community that you serve here on the Suncoast?
I'm sorry?
What is the impact that this conversation, this issue, will have on you and your work with the patients that you see here on the Suncoast?
Oh, we work largely with the LGBTQ population, and the medications that we do research are primarily focused at HIV-positive patients. And we have to look at it. If one of our patients do get pregnant, is there a risk to the fetus? What can we do to prevent it? What part of it can we stop, change, alter, or even monitor to make sure that there will be no changes or no abnormal birth defects?
So if you do this research and you're sending it to Atlanta where the CDC is based, are you concerned that your findings will be manipulated in a way using other words that may make it less accurate than it should be?
With the way this administration is playing out, probably yes.
Okay.
That's sad. Very sad.
Susan, where's the pushback on this? Because after all, I mean, there's a lot going on in Washington right now. We're on a budget deadline right now, and Congress and Democrats in Congress have their hands full with other things.
Yeah, sure, but the pushback is the elections of this year. You have Paul Ryan that is extremely nervous about what's going to happen. Just an election the other day that was strong Republican hold for decades went to a Democrat. So the public right now has a lot of power. There's a march on Saturday to remind everybody about the March on DC last year at this time. You know, the public doesn't have to stand for this. The public doesn't have to say, I'm willing to accept it and hold my nose until the term changes. They have got to stand and hold everyone accountable. And that means get on the phone and call your congressman.
Doctor, just to give us some idea of what we're talking about here, let's just take one word, transgender, and how not using that word affects what you do, your work, and your research.
So even within our own clinical trials, we do have a population that is transgender. Now, by removing that word, you're kind of implying that you don't have a care for this group of people. Is that what they want to portray? Is that what they want to make the community happy about? That, okay, we've just omitted this. We don't care. We don't want to know. Is that what they want to do? Is that what they see? That's not fair to that community as well.
But there is a debate in our society right now, whether it's transgender in the militaries or the issue in terms of bathrooms, where you do have a certain amount of the population that thinks that we talk about these issues and too much.
We do, because it is a concern. They have their rights. Why shouldn't they bring it up? If that's what they feel that they need or they deserve, then it should be brought up. It should be fought for.
Okay, we have to take a quick break, and we'll be back for final thoughts in a moment.
SRQ Performance Parts provides parts and accessories from over 300 manufacturers, so you can get that new manifold, carburetor, gasket, bolt kit, or nitrous oxide system fast. We'll help you beat the competition. Call or visit SRQ Performance Parts online today for all your high-performance parts and advice.
You know, fortunately, this was my first job out of college, so I was able to come back home and work in my hometown. I wore two hats. I was sports director and I was a news anchor. I did that for a few years and then decided to go full-time into news. Well, I love our team here at ABC7. We have a great mix, and it really is a great mix of personalities, of experience that meshes really well into a really strong team. I'm Scott Dennis, and I'm here for you.
Growing up, my mom was afraid of the water, something she did not want me to feel.
So I enrolled Missy in swim lessons.
It changed my life.
Missy Franklin.
And now you can do the same for someone that you love.
There's nothing more precious than your child's well-being.
So act now before it's too late.
Make us swim! I'm glad I did.
Thanks, Mom. Visit usaswimmingfoundation.org to find, get, or give a swim lesson.
Tomorrow at 4 on Suncoast View. We have the best fun finds for your home and gift giving this year. I'm Stephanie Roberts on Suncoast View. Our gift girl is just back from the big Atlanta market with what's hot this season. Plus, you can shop locally at this month's Rosemary Indie Market. We'll have a preview. The McCurdy's comedy headliner, one of our favorites, Bobby Collins, stops by, and pastry chef Ray from Madison's joins us in the kitchen. Tomorrow at 4 on Suncoast View.
I just need a second.
Is your weight holding you back and affecting your health?
Did you see this? Your cousin had a heart attack.
Really?
Excess weight or obesity can be serious, but you can do something about it. Visit yourweightmatters.org. Download the free toolkit to prepare you to speak with a healthcare provider. Your weight does matter. Accept the challenge and take charge today. Visit yourweightmatters.org.
ABC7 News at 7, weeknights.
And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. And Susan, there was a point that you wanted to make.
You know, it's really disturbing when we remove one word from the English language and we completely ignore an entire population. Their intent is not just to make it easier to pass to Congress. Their intent is to not acknowledge the transgender community, and to me, that's egregious. I mean, that's worthy of, you know, people taking serious issue with it. The same thing when you're talking about a community and you are describing them as vulnerable. They are. Why would you not call them that?
But as we reported earlier, it's not unprecedented. If you work for the state of Florida, you are not allowed to use the term climate change.
Correct. And again, even though I got to tell you, they're not as strict about it. I think it's more publicity than anything else, because they can't stop the public from using it. They can't stop the press from using it. So are they manipulating it? Yeah, but it's been rather unsuccessful.
You know, Doctor, is this really going to impact the way that you treat your patients and go about doing your research?
No, it will not. I'll continue doing it the way I've been trained, and ethically, logically, and under the Hippocratic Oath, I will continue to do it.
But what's your biggest concern?
That they will win, and then these words will be removed, and certain subsects of our own community will not have the issues raised for their own help.
All right. Thank you both for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we go, we want to share with you what some of you had to say about last night's show on affordable housing. Police officers, firefighters, teachers may all have a hard time affording a house on the Suncoast. The average salary for police officers is $57,000, which falls below the national average. Elementary school teachers make about $47,000 a year, which is about 8% less than the country's average. But housing in Sarasota is 9% above the national average, with workers making 8% less than the county's average annual salary. We went to Facebook to see what some of you have to say, and Emily says that's all fine until there's no working class left in Sarasota to take care of the retirees. If Sarasota doesn't figure out affordable housing or increase wages, the city will suffer. It's just not sustainable. Matthew says an awful lot of Sarasota County employees have to live in Bradenton because they can't afford to live in the county that they serve. If my rent goes up anymore, I'll be one of them. Christina says the lack of light rail and commuter rail services in this part of the county adds another layer to the issue. If we did have reasonable public transit, then living 45 minutes away from where you work wouldn't be such a big deal. Well, if you'd like to join the conversation on tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And for the latest on local breaking news, don't forget to download the updated version of our app. If your current app doesn't work, it's because it's expired. Just go to the App Store and re-download it by searching for WWSB or My Suncoast. We want to thank both our guests for being here tonight, Susan Nylon of the Nylon Report and Dr. Prerak Shukla of CAN Community Health. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather. Plus, we are just 28 hours away from a possible government shutdown. What's the holdup?
I heard about the Dotoli Cancer Center through friends of mine who had been treated here and were very pleased with the treatment.
If there is prostate cancer, we at the Dotoli Cancer Center will find it using 3D color flow Doppler ultrasound.
And that helped precisely identify where my cancer was. I can tell you that you will not find a finer, more professional team of clinicians anywhere in the world.
Every year, 40% of all food in the U.S. never gets eaten.
40%. That's almost half the food we produce.
Food waste is a serious problem. It impacts all of us.
And it's expensive. Your family is throwing $1,500 a year in the trash.
We're working hard to put food waste on the chopping block.
And you can do the same at home.
Learn how to cook it, store it, and share it.
Just don't waste it.
Go to SaveTheFood.com.
There's nothing like this trail in Alabama. It just goes from the northern part of the state to the southern part of the state. We see all kind of different terrains, great value, great fun. We've been coming for 18 years. We started off with a group of 8, grew to 12, and grew to 16. And we love it because where else can you get world-class golf courses with world-class accommodations? To be able to play these type of courses in this environment, and the difficulty keeps us coming back over and over and over again.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Your primetime headlines are coming up in just a moment, but right now let's get a final check on our first alert forecast from Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Well, a freeze warning, Alan, in effect again east of I-75 this time, though. So coastal residents don't need to worry about covering their plants. Do so if you feel worried about it, though. I mean, we have some high clouds streaming in, too, and these may actually help keep temperatures a little bit warmer than projected. So we're going to watch this. If it thins out, obviously we'll still see those lows into the low 30s east of the interstate, but if this cloudiness increases through the night, that may not be the case. So we'll watch that closely throughout the overnight. And speaking of that, temperatures generally west of I-75 will drop down into the mid-30s with wind chills into the upper 20s to low 30s to start things off on Friday morning. Well, this is the look at the temperatures overnight. By 9 o'clock, if you have any tea time or anything, it'll be still cold across the area, 44 degrees. And then we'll warm up into the low 60s for highs tomorrow. We will see low to mid 60s across Sarasota and Manatee counties, and then we'll see a little warmer temperatures on Saturday. Well, here's a look at the overnight lows projected. We'll see 40 at Placido, 32 Port Charlotte, right at freezing at Northport, and the same at Mayaca City, and temperature at Lakewood Ranch will be right around 32 to start things off. So a little bit warmer, but still cold for Florida standards, 41 at Anna Maria and 40 for Longboat Key, with that wind blowing at around 5 to 10 miles an hour and make it feel a bit colder. The wind chill right now at 40, and winds are out of the north at 7. So the winds have come down, and the pressure now 30.32. That's high. That continues to rise. And temperatures statewide, 39 already in Jacksonville, 45 in Orlando, and around town temperatures basically into the mid 40s to upper 40s, although Inglewood at 51 right now. The Gulf water temperature starting to cool down, 58 degrees just a couple days ago, was at 62. Well, Futurecast is showing a little system here in the western Gulf of Mexico on the backside of this high pressure ridge. This will give us a little increase in cloudiness on Saturday, maybe some overrunning as that front kind of moves back northward as a warm front. There's a chance for a few spotty showers on Saturday and on Sunday. Well, look at the highs tomorrow. Denver, 65 degrees in Denver. That's the projected high, and the projected high for Sarasota, 65. A little bit of a difference there now as things start to warm up out west, but that's just going to be around for a short period of time. 38 the high in Chicago. They'll think they'll be going through a little summer there after the winter they've experienced. Now, this is the long-range model forecast. The purples, the deep purples there and the pinks, that's where the real cold air is. And this is a long-range forecast. You'll notice that it starts to gather more out west as opposed to driving down into the southeast. And this is January 27th. You see at the end of this month, the cold air track will be more out in the western United States as a result of the trough of low pressure in the jet stream out west. Will it shift to the east? There's a chance. So, usually by mid-February, we get rid of the chance for freezing temperatures here. So we still have a couple more weeks after this, and we'll see how it plays out. But there's a lot of times this will shift to the east. So in the early part of February, we could get another blast of very cold air. But this looks like will be over. After about 12 hours, we'll start to warm up and stay away from these cold weather advisories by tomorrow evening. Northeast winds at 15 knots for boaters to start things off. We'll have 5 to 10 knots later in the afternoon. Light to moderate chop on the bays and inland waters. UV index is 6 tomorrow. And the beaches, we'll see a high right around 64 degrees. Here's a look at that 7-day forecast as we see it. Still cold tomorrow, below seasonal averages. Our average high at 71. And then Saturday looking good, although a little increase in cloudiness with that very small chance for showers. Sunday, not bad at all, 76, much warmer with a rain chance at about 10%. We'll see a 30% chance for showers on Monday. Monday night, Tuesday morning, better chance at 40% as some overnight showers are possible. And then temperatures staying in the 70s throughout the work week with highs in the low 70s, so a little bit above average as we push in through the latter half of the work week next week, with a little chance for significant rainfall through Wednesday. Better chances come on Thursday. Alan will be back with primetime headlines right after this.
This is an important announcement. If you're between 50 and 85 and worried about your loved ones, you can still get affordable life insurance for peace of mind.
My life insurance coverage is guaranteed, and I was not required to get a medical exam.
I had high blood pressure and diabetes, and I got my coverage with one telephone call. No exam necessary.
I'm a smoker, and I wanted to take care of my family. I called to get my life insurance and my affairs in order. I wanted to do the right thing.
Call Final Expense No Exam Insurance. Your rates are guaranteed and will never increase.
I called and learned that this insurance cannot be canceled even if you get sick or gain weight.
And there are no restrictions on how my beneficiaries use the money when I'm gone.
Approval was easy and the price was right. I wanted to do this for my children.
Call 800-738-9812. 800-738-9812.
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Yeah, I have questions.
Prescription drugs aren't as bad as street drugs, right?
Weed's legal, isn't it?
Drinking is worse than smoking weed.
Isn't it? Why
is heroin so addictive?
Molly just makes you feel happy.
I have questions.
Mom?
Dad, did you ever try drugs?
They're going to ask. Be ready. Go to drugfree.org. A message from Partnership for Drug-Free Kids.
In life after the military, it's our duty as veterans to have each other's back. I'm retired Colonel Greg Gatson, and it's my mission to help you get the benefits and services you've earned. If you need to file a VA claim, remember these important steps. Submit an online claim through ebenefits.va.gov. Work with an accredited Veteran Service Organization, or VSO. And if you need to attend a VA claim exam, please go. Visit this website to learn what to expect.
A promise was made, a promise that hit the beaches of Normandy, a vow that captured Iwo Jima, a contract that weathered Tet, a pledge that stormed the desert in Iraq, an IOU that braved IEDs in Kandahar. A promise was made to America's veterans. DAV fights to keep that promise, so all veterans and their families get the benefits and support they earned. For help, visit DAV.org.
Checking primetime headlines today, the showdown in Washington to keep the federal government open is intensifying With a deadline tomorrow night, House GOP leaders are expected to move forward with a vote on a bill to fund the government for another 30 days, but the measure doesn't have support in the Senate. ABC's Kenneth Moten has the latest from Washington.
President Trump made a trip to the Pentagon, a possible government shutdown just hours away.
If for any reason it shuts down, the worst thing is what happens to our military.
Fact check, military operations will remain unaffected if there's a shutdown. Service members won't get paid, but will get retro pay when the government reopens. Non-essential civilian defense employees will be furloughed. Trump later toured a factory in Pennsylvania touting the new tax law.
I really believe the Democrats want a shutdown to get off the subject of the tax cuts because they've worked so well.
The Democrats hitting back on Capitol Hill with the reminder that the Republicans are in charge.
Because the Republicans, both in the Senate, the House, and the White House, can't get their act together.
The main sticking points, immigration, including a fix for the Dreamers and Trump's southern border wall. Also hanging in the balance, the children's health insurance program for 9 million kids.
I think it's unconscionable that Democrats would walk away from CHIP, from funding our military, for something that is not a deadline.
GOP leaders hoping to entice Democrats to vote on a 30-day measure to fund the government by including CHIP funding.
This is like giving you a bowl of doggy do, put a cherry on top and call it a chocolate sundae. This is nothing.
Trump tweeted this morning CHIP should be a part of a long-term solution, not a short-term extension, but the White House clarified, saying Trump supports the one-month funding measure, which doesn't appear to have the votes in the Senate to pass. Kenneth Moten, ABC News, Washington.
There is late word that the House has approved a bill averting a government shutdown, sending the bill to the Senate, where its fate is a lot less certain. Apple is promising to make a multi-billion-dollar contribution to the U.S. economy. The company is saying it will pay $38 billion in taxes on huge cash profits it's been keeping overseas. Apple also pledged to add 20,000 jobs over the next 5 years and invest $30 billion in new facilities. Some Apple employees could also see a $2,500 stock bonus in response to new U.S. tax rules. President Trump praised Apple's decision in a tweet, calling it a huge win. The top 20 finalists for Amazon's second headquarters are in. The e-commerce giant announcing today it narrowed down proposals to 20 cities from 238. Most of the contenders are well-known, cities like New York, Atlanta, and Boston. They are all east of the Mississippi River, except for Los Angeles and Denver. Toronto is the only city outside the U.S. to make the cut. The company says it will take a closer look at each finalist and make a final decision sometime this year. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.